Captain Jake Morrison stood in the middle of the huge meeting room. All around him were aliens from different planets. Some looked like giant crystals that sparkled in the light. Others had too many arms and eyes that glowed bright blue. A few floated in the air without touching the ground at all. They were all staring at him like he was crazy. The big screen in front of them showed a dark shape floating in empty space. It was enormous, bigger than any city Jake had ever seen. Strange lights flickered across its surface, and it spun slowly in the darkness between galaxies. "This is the Void Citadel," said Ambassador Crix. He was one of the crystal aliens, and his voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "For 300 years it has been sending out a cry for help. Many of our best ships have tried to reach it. None have come back alive." Jake looked at the spinning fortress on the screen. His heart started beating faster, but not from fear, from excitement. This was exactly the kind of job he loved most. "The gravitational fields around it are impossible to predict," continued another alien. This one had purple skin and 4 arms. "They change every few seconds. Ships get pulled apart by forces no one understands. The energy readings show technology we have never seen before. Even our most advanced computers cannot figure out a safe path through the danger zone," added a floating alien that looked like a jellyfish made of light. "We have lost 17 expeditions. Each one had the best pilots and the smartest scientists from our worlds." Jake smiled. The bigger the challenge, the more interesting it became. "And you want us to try?" he asked. The crystal alien made a sound like breaking glass. It might have been laughter, but not the good kind. "Your people have been part of our alliance for only 50 years, Captain Morrison. Perhaps this mission needs more experienced civilizations." "With respect, Ambassador," Jake said, "experienced might be the problem here." All the aliens turned to look at him. Some of their expressions showed confusion. Others showed what might have been anger. "What do you mean by that?" asked the purple alien. Jake walked closer to the screen. He studied the spinning fortress and the swirling energy patterns around it. "You said 17 expeditions failed. All of them used your best technology and smartest people. All of them followed careful plans and used proven methods." "Of course," said the crystal alien. "That is how intelligent beings approach dangerous situations." "Maybe that's why they all failed," Jake said. "When everyone tries the same smart approach and it doesn't work, maybe you need to try something different. Maybe you need someone who doesn't know enough to be scared." The room got very quiet. Jake could hear the soft humming of the space station's engines through the walls. "Are you saying human ignorance is better than our knowledge?" asked the floating jellyfish alien. "I'm saying human stubbornness might be exactly what this job needs," Jake replied. He turned away from the screen and looked at all the alien representatives. "You've all been thinking about this problem for 300 years. You've studied every detail and run millions of computer simulations. You know exactly why it's impossible to reach that fortress." Jake pointed at the screen. "But we don't know it's impossible. We just see a challenge." The crystal alien's body flashed brighter. "Captain Morrison, this is not a game. The forces around that structure have destroyed ships 3 times larger than yours. The energy weapons have turned the best shields into dust. Even if you somehow survive the journey, we have no idea what is waiting inside." "Sounds interesting," Jake said. Several aliens made sounds that might have been sighs or growls. Jake wasn't sure which. "Your ship, the Defiant Spirit, is not equipped for this kind of mission," said the purple alien. "You do not have the advanced navigation systems our expeditions carried. Your shields are basic compared to ours. Your weapons are primitive." "True," Jake agreed. "But our basic equipment hasn't failed yet because we've never tried to use it there before." He walked back to his seat at the big round table. "Look, I understand why you think this is crazy. Your people are smart. You make good plans. You use the best technology, and none of it worked." Jake sat down and leaned forward. "But my crew and I were good at making impossible things work. We've been doing it since we first left Earth. Every time someone tells us something can't be done, we find a way to do it anyway." "This is different," insisted the crystal alien. "This is not about human determination. This is about basic physics. The gravitational forces alone will tear your ship apart." Maybe, Jake said. Or maybe we'll find a way to work with those forces instead of fighting them. The floating jellyfish alien pulsed with dim light. Even if you somehow reach the fortress, Captain Morrison, we do not know what sent that distress signal. It could be a trap. It could be something that destroys everything it touches. Jake's smile got bigger. Now you're making it sound really interesting. The purple alien slammed one of his 4 hands on the table. This is madness. You are talking about flying into certain death. We're talking about flying into the unknown, Jake corrected. Death is only certain if you give up before you try. He stood up again and looked around the room. I know what you're all thinking. Humans are new to space travel. We don't understand the dangers. We're too stupid to be properly scared. Several aliens nodded. You're probably right about all of that, Jake continued. But here's the thing about humans. When someone tells us we can't do something, that just makes us want to do it more. When you show us a problem that stumped the smartest people in the galaxy for 300 years, we don't see failure. We see a challenge that no one has figured out how to beat yet. The crystal alien's body dimmed. And you truly believe you can succeed where we have failed? Jake looked at the spinning fortress on the screen one more time. Strange energy patterns danced around it like lightning trapped in a bottle. It was beautiful and terrifying and completely unknown. I don't know if we can succeed, he said honestly. But I know we're going to try. And if there's one thing humans are really good at, it's finding ways to make impossible things possible. The room fell silent again. Finally, the floating jellyfish alien spoke. Very well, Captain Morrison. The mission is yours. But understand this. We cannot help you once you enter the danger zone around the fortress. You will be completely on your own. Jake's grin was bright enough to light up the whole room. Perfect, he said. That's exactly how we like it. 2 days later, Jake stood on the bridge of the Defiant Spirit with his crew. Through the big window in front of them, they could see the void citadel in the distance. It looked like a dark mountain floating in empty space, covered with lights that flashed in patterns no one understood. Around the fortress, space itself seemed to be twisted into knots. Stars behind it looked stretched and bent. Sometimes they disappeared completely, then popped back into view somewhere else. The gravitational readings are all over the place, Captain, said Commander Lisa Park. She was Jake's second in command, and she had been his friend since their days at the academy. The computer can't make sense of the patterns. Every few seconds, the gravity fields change completely. Jake nodded. What about the other ships that tried this? Do we have records of their approach paths? Yes, sir, Lisa replied. All 17 expeditions used the same basic strategy. They tried to map the gravitational fields first, then find the safest route through them. And they all got torn apart, Jake said. Every single one. Jake walked over to the engineering station where Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez was working. Danny was the kind of person who could fix anything with spare parts and determination. His workspace was always covered with tools, broken equipment, and at least 3 cups of coffee. Danny, what do you think about this gravity problem? Jake asked. Danny looked up from a mess of wires and computer parts. Well, Captain, the way I see it, those other ships were trying to fight the gravity fields. They wanted to find a path that avoided the dangerous areas. But the dangerous areas keep moving, Jake said. Exactly. It's like trying to avoid raindrops. In a thunderstorm, no matter which way you go, you're going to get wet. Jake smiled. So what would you do instead? Danny pointed at his coffee maker, which was sitting next to his engineering tools. You know how I always say this old coffee maker has the perfect electromagnetic frequency? You mention it every morning, Lisa said from across the bridge. Well, I was looking at the sensor readings from the fortress and I noticed something weird. The electromagnetic patterns from our coffee maker match the rhythm of those gravity field changes. Jake raised an eyebrow. Are you saying our coffee maker is connected to an ancient alien fortress? Not connected exactly, Danny said. But maybe it resonates with the same kind of energy, like how a tuning fork makes another tuning fork vibrate at the same frequency. Communications officer Amy Sullivan looked up from her station. Danny, are you suggesting we navigate through a deadly gravity field using kitchen equipment? I'm suggesting we stop fighting the gravity and start working with it, Danny replied. Instead of trying to avoid the fields, we surf them. Use their energy to carry us forward instead of trying to go around them. Jake's excitement was growing. This was exactly the kind of crazy idea that might actually work. How would we do that? Danny pointed to his coffee maker again. We wire this into our navigation system. If the electromagnetic frequency really does match the fortress's energy patterns, we can use it to predict when the gravity fields will change. Then we ride the waves instead of getting crushed by them. Amy laughed. So you want to turn our spaceship into a surfboard guided by a coffee maker? When you say it like that, it sounds ridiculous, Danny admitted. It sounds perfect, Jake said. Lisa shook her head. Captain, with all due respect, this is insane. We're talking about using a kitchen appliance to navigate through the most dangerous gravitational anomaly in known space. Which is exactly why it might work, Jake replied. Every other ship tried to use the most advanced navigation computers in the galaxy. They all failed. Maybe the answer isn't more complicated technology. Maybe it's simpler technology used in a way no one else thought. If Danny was already pulling wires out of his coffee maker, give me 2 hours, Captain. I can have this rigged up to our navigation system. Do it, Jake ordered. While Danny worked on his coffee maker navigation system, Amy was studying the communication signals from the fortress. She had been trying to understand the patterns for days, but they didn't match any known language or code. Captain, she called out, I'm getting some strange readings on the communication channels. Jake walked over to her station. What kind of strange? The fortress keeps sending out different types of signals. Some of them look like distress calls, others look like warnings, but there are also signals that don't make any sense at all. Amy played a recording through the bridge speakers. It sounded like static mixed with whale songs and the humming of machinery. Our computers can't translate any of it, she continued. But the weird thing is, every time I run the audio analysis, the fortress changes its signal pattern. It's almost like it's listening to us and responding. Maybe it is, Jake said. Amy frowned, but that would mean there's still someone alive in there after 300 years. Or something, Lisa added quietly. Jake was about to respond when Danny's voice echoed through the bridge. Captain, you need to see this. They all rushed over to the engineering station. Danny had wires running everywhere, connecting his coffee maker to the ship's navigation computer. The screen showed a swirling pattern of lines and colors that looked like a map of chaos. I just finished connecting the coffee maker to our sensors, Danny explained. And look what happened. The chaotic patterns on the screen suddenly organized themselves into clear pathways. It was like watching a puzzle solve itself. The electromagnetic resonance is working, Danny said, his voice full of excitement. The coffee maker is picking up the rhythm of the gravity field changes. We can actually predict where the safe paths will be. Amy gasped. Danny, look at your communication readings. They all turned to Amy's station. The incomprehensible signals from the fortress had changed completely. Now they showed clear patterns, almost like music. What did you do? Jake asked. I don't know, Amy replied. But when Danny connected the coffee maker to our systems, all the signals from the fortress suddenly started making sense. Listen to this. She played the new audio through the speakers. Instead of static and noise, they heard something that sounded almost like a melody. It was strange and alien, but definitely musical. It's trying to communicate, Amy said. The fortress is responding to our electromagnetic frequency. It's like we're speaking the same language now. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Amy, play some of our music back to it, see what happens. Amy looked confused. What kind of music, Captain? Anything. Just pick something. Amy selected a classic rock song from the ship's entertainment files and broadcast it toward the fortress. For a moment, nothing happened. Then all the warning signals from the fortress stopped completely. The bridge fell silent except for the sound of the song playing through the speakers. The defensive systems just shut down, Lisa reported, staring at her sensors in disbelief. All the energy weapons that were targeting us are now offline. It likes our music, Amy said, laughing despite herself. Jake shook his head in amazement. So let me get this straight. We're going to navigate through the most dangerous space anomaly in the galaxy using a coffee maker, and we've turned off the fortress's defenses by playing rock music. That's about the size of it, Captain, Danny confirmed. Jake looked around, at his crew. They were all grinning now, caught up in the excitement of their ridiculous solution actually working. Well then, Jake said, let's go make history. Danny, fire up that coffee maker. Amy, keep the music playing. Lisa, plot a course for the fortress. Yes, sir, they all replied together. As the defiant spirit began moving toward the void citadel, riding the gravity waves like a surfer on an ocean. Jake couldn't help but smile. Somewhere in the galaxy, all those advanced alien civilizations were probably watching in complete confusion, as a human ship did the impossible using kitchen equipment and classic rock. It was exactly the way Jake liked to solve problems. The defiant spirit docked with the void citadel with a soft bump that echoed through the ship. After 300 years of failed attempts, they had actually made it. Jake and his crew stood in the airlock looking at the sealed door that led into the ancient fortress. Life support readings are stable on the other side, reported Dr. Kate Adams, the ship's medical officer. The atmosphere is breathable, but there are some unusual energy readings I've never seen before. Security Chief Pete Collins checked his weapons one more time. Captain, we still don't know what's waiting for us in there. The fortress could be full of hostile aliens, ancient defense systems, or worse. Only one way to find out, Jake replied, reaching for the door controls. The massive door slid open with a sound like thunder. Beyond it was a corridor that stretched further than their lights could reach. The walls were made of some kind of metal that seemed to shift and change color as they watched. Soft lights moved along the ceiling like living things. Stay together, Jake ordered as they stepped inside. Keep your eyes open for anything unusual. Captain, Amy said quietly. In a place like this, what would count as normal? She had a point. Everything about the fortress was strange. The corridor they walked through was wide enough for their entire crew to walk side by side. But the ceiling curved, up and disappeared into darkness. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing faintly and changing patterns every few seconds. As they walked deeper into the fortress, they began to hear sounds. Not mechanical sounds like the humming of engines or computers, but organic sounds, like breathing, like whispers, like something alive. These readings don't make sense, Dr. Adams said, studying her medical scanner. I'm detecting thousands of life forms, but they don't match any biology in our databases. It's almost like they're not completely physical. They reached a junction, where the corridor split into 3 directions. Jake was about to choose the middle path when a voice spoke to them. It came from everywhere at once, like the walls themselves were talking. Welcome, travelers from the young star systems. We have been waiting for someone to hear our call. The crew raised their weapons, but there was nothing to point them at. The voice seemed to come from the air itself. Who are you? Jake called out. Are you the ones who sent the distress signal? We are the Eternals, the voice replied. Once, we ruled an empire that stretched across 10 galaxies. Now we are prisoners in our own sanctuary, trapped by time itself. The walls around them began to glow brighter, and suddenly the crew could see transparent figures moving through the corridors. They looked almost human, but made of light instead of flesh. Some were tall and graceful, others short and stocky. All of them looked very, very old. You're ghosts, Pete said, lowering his weapon. Not ghosts, corrected one of the light beings as it approached them. We are consciousness without form. When our physical bodies died, we preserved ourselves as pure thought and memory. Jake stepped forward. What happened to your empire? Why are you trapped here? The Eternal's form flickered like a candle in the wind. Long ago, we discovered something in the deep space between galaxies. A creature that feeds on star systems. It devours entire worlds, growing stronger with each meal. We tried to stop it, but it was too powerful. Another Eternal appeared beside the first one. So we built this fortress as a prison. We lured the creature here and trapped it in a temporal loop, freezing time around it so it could never escape. Dr. Adams scanned the new arrivals with her medical equipment. Captain, These beings are existing in some kind of energy state. They're not alive in any way we understand, but they're definitely conscious and intelligent. The temporal prison worked, continued the First Eternal, but it trapped us as well. For 300 years we have been reliving the same moment over and over again, the moment when our civilization fell. Jake felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. You mean the creature that destroyed your empire is here? In this fortress? Yes, the Eternal replied. It sleeps in the deepest levels, held in temporal stasis, but the prison is weakening. Soon it will break free, and when it does, it will consume everything in this galaxy. Amy stepped closer to Jake. Captain, that explains the energy readings we've been detecting, and why the fortress's defenses were so aggressive. They weren't trying to keep people out. They were trying to keep something in, Jake finished. Pete looked around at the glowing corridors and the light beings that moved through them. How big is this creature? What are we talking about here? A third Eternal materialized in front of them. This one seemed older and more faded than the others. At its full strength, it was larger than your moon. It had consumed so many star systems that it carried the mass of 100 worlds within its body. And you've kept it locked up here for 300 years? Dr. Adams asked. Time moves differently. In the temporal field, the old Eternal explained. To the creature, only moments have passed since it was trapped. But the energy required to maintain the prison grows weaker each day. We estimate it will break free within your month. Jake processed this information. What happens when it escapes? It will be hungry, the First Eternal said simply. 300 years of forced sleep will have made it desperate to feed. It will devour every inhabited world it can find, starting with the closest systems. The crew exchanged worried glances. The closest inhabited systems included Earth and dozens of allied worlds. Is there a way to kill it? Pete asked. We tried for centuries, replied the old Eternal. Conventional weapons only made it stronger. Energy weapons fed its growth. Even when we destroyed its physical form, it simply rebuilt itself from the matter it had consumed. Jake walked closer to the Eternals. But there has to be something. You wouldn't have sent out a distress signal if there was no hope. The Eternals flickered brighter, and Jake could sense their excitement. There may be a way, but it would require someone willing to enter the temporal field and manually reset the prison controls. What's the catch? Jake asked, though he suspected he already knew. The temporal radiation would destroy any physical being within minutes, the First Eternal admitted. And the creature would try to stop anyone who entered its prison. Even in stasis, it maintains some awareness of its surroundings. Dr. Adams shook her head. Captain, that's suicide. No one can survive that kind of radiation exposure. Actually, Amy said slowly, there might be a way. Everyone turned to look at her. Remember how the fortress responded to our music? And how Danny's coffee maker resonated with the temporal fields? Jake's eyes lit up. You think we can use the same principle to protect someone in the temporal field? Maybe, Amy replied. If the right frequency can stabilize the gravitational anomalies around the fortress, it might be able to stabilize the temporal radiation as well. Danny, who had been quietly studying his scanner readings, looked up suddenly. Captain, I'm reading massive energy fluctuations from the lower levels. Something down there is getting stronger. The Eternals began flickering more rapidly, and their voices carried new urgency. The creature stirs. Our conversation has disturbed its sleep. You must decide quickly whether you will help us. Jake looked at his crew. They were all scared, but none of them suggested running away. That wasn't how humans dealt with impossible problems. If we help you reset the prison, Jake said to the Eternals, will that stop the creature permanently? Not permanently, the old Eternal admitted, but it would give us time to find a better solution. Perhaps together, human ingenuity and eternal knowledge could discover a way to defeat it once and for all. Jake smiled. It was a dangerous, probably impossible mission that could save billions of lives. His favorite kind of challenge. Then let's get to work, he said. Jake and his crew followed the Eternals deeper into the fortress, down corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The further they went, the stranger everything became. Sometimes they walked on walls that had turned into floors. Other times they passed through rooms where water flowed upward, and light cast shadows instead of illuminating things. The temporal distortions are getting stronger, Dr. Adams reported, watching her scanner readings change every few seconds. Time itself is unstable down here. They finally reached a massive chamber at the heart of the fortress. In the center was a sphere of pure darkness, held in place by beams of energy that sparked and twisted like lightning. The sphere was perfectly round and completely black, but Jake could feel something moving inside it. "The creature's prison," whispered the lead Eternal. "For 300 years it has slept within that temporal bubble." Pete trained his weapon on the dark sphere, even though he knew it wouldn't do any good. "How big did you say this thing was?" "The sphere compresses space as well as time," another Eternal explained. "The creature inside is actually much larger than what you see. If it were to expand to its true size, it would fill this entire chamber." Jake studied the energy beams holding the sphere in place. Some of them flickered and sparked more than others. "The prison is failing." "Yes," confirmed the old Eternal. "Within days, maybe hours, the containment field will collapse. When it does, the creature will be free to resume its feeding." Amy walked around the sphere, taking readings with her communication equipment. "Captain, I'm detecting the same electromagnetic patterns we found in the gravitational fields. The prison works on the same principles as the anomalies outside." Danny was examining the control systems that managed the energy beams. "These controls are amazing, but they're also incredibly complex. I can see why the temporal field is failing. The power requirements are enormous, and some of the key components are burning out." Jake's communication device crackled to life. It was the Galactic Council, calling from their safe distance outside the danger zone. "Captain Morrison," came the crystal alien's voice, "our sensors indicate dangerous energy fluctuations from your location. We strongly advise immediate evacuation." Jake activated his communicator. "We've found the source of the distress signal, Ambassador. There's an ancient creature imprisoned here that could threaten the entire galaxy if it escapes." "Then you must leave immediately," the alien replied. "Whatever is in that fortress, it is beyond our ability to contain. Cut your losses and return with the information you have gathered." "We can't do that," Jake said. "If we leave now, this thing will break free in a matter of hours. Billions of people will die." "Captain Morrison, you have already accomplished more than anyone thought possible. Do not throw away your lives on an impossible mission." Jake looked around at his crew. They were all listening to the conversation, and he could see the determination in their faces. They had come this far together, and none of them wanted to quit now. "With respect, Ambassador," Jake replied, "impossible missions are what we do best." He switched off the communicator before the alien could respond. The lead Eternal approached Jake. "The Council is correct about one thing, Captain. What we are asking you to do is extremely dangerous. To reset the prison controls, someone must enter the temporal field manually. The radiation exposure would be fatal to any physical being, but Amy thinks we might be able to use electromagnetic resonance to protect whoever goes in there," Jake said. Danny nodded. "If we can modify a protective suit to broadcast the right frequency, it might create a stable field around the person wearing it. Like a bubble of normal time inside the temporal storm." Dr. Adams shook her head. "Even if that works, there's still the creature itself to consider. The Eternals said it maintains some awareness even in stasis. It won't just let someone waltz in and reset its prison." "Actually," Amy said, studying her readings, "I think the creature might be more awake than the Eternals realize. Look at these communication patterns." She showed them her scanner display. "The signals coming from inside the sphere aren't random. They're organized almost like language. I think it's been trying to communicate with us since we arrived." Pete frowned. "You mean this thing that eats star systems wants to have a conversation?" "Maybe," Amy replied. "Or maybe it's trying to understand what we are. It's been alone for 300 years. We might be the first new stimulus it's encountered in all that time." Jake walked closer to the dark sphere. As he approached, the energy beams holding it seemed to pulse brighter, and he could swear he felt something watching him from inside. "What if we're looking at this all wrong?" he said suddenly. "What do you mean, Captain?" Lisa asked. Jake pointed at the failing prison controls. "The Eternals have been trying to keep this creature locked up for 300 years, but the prison keeps getting weaker. Maybe the solution isn't to make the prison stronger." "You want to let it out?" Pete asked, his voice rising in alarm. "Not exactly," Jake replied. "But what if instead of keeping it trapped in our universe, we gave it its own universe to live in?" The Eternals flickered with excitement. "Explain this idea, human." Jake turned to Danny. "You said the temporal controls work by manipulating space and time, right? Could we use them to create a pocket dimension instead of a prison?" Danny's eyes widened as he understood. "You want to give the creature its own private reality to consume, a universe where it can feed without threatening anyone else." "Exactly," Jake said. "Instead of trapping it, we redirect it. Give it what it wants, but somewhere it can't hurt anyone." Dr. Adams looked skeptical. "That's assuming the creature would be willing to go along with this plan. What if it prefers our universe?" Amy stepped forward. "Maybe we can negotiate with it. If it really is trying to communicate, we might be able to explain the situation." "You want to have a diplomatic conversation with a cosmic horror that eats planets?" Pete asked. "Why not?" Jake replied. "Stranger things have happened." The old Eternal moved closer to them. "This plan has potential, but it would still require someone to enter the temporal field and reconfigure the controls manually. The radiation exposure would remain fatal." Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he smiled the way he always did when he was about to do something incredibly dangerous. "Not necessarily," he said. "Amy, what if we don't just use electromagnetic resonance to protect someone in the field? What if we use it to communicate with the creature at the same time?" Amy caught on immediately. "A continuous broadcast that both stabilizes the temporal radiation and establishes communication with the creature. We could explain what we're trying to do while we're doing it. And if the creature agrees to the plan," Danny added, "it might even help us reconfigure the controls." Lisa shook her head. "This is getting more insane by the minute. We're talking about trusting a planet-eating monster to help us build it a new home." "It's worked so far," Jake pointed out. "Every time we've tried something that should be impossible, it's turned out to be exactly what we needed." He looked around at his crew and the flickering Eternals. "So what do you say? Are we ready to try negotiating with cosmic horror using a modified spacesuit and the power of rock music?" Danny grinned. "Captain, when you put it like that, how could we possibly say no?" Pete sighed and checked his weapons again. "Well, if we're going to do something this stupid, we might as well do it right." Jake nodded. "Then let's get to work. We have a universe to save and a monster to relocate." The creature in the dark sphere pulsed brighter, almost as if it had heard them, and was looking forward to the conversation. Jake stood in the equipment room of the fortress, watching Danny work on the most ridiculous piece of technology ever assembled. It was a standard spacesuit, but Danny had attached speakers all over it, wired them to a portable music player, and connected the whole thing to Amy's communication equipment. "So let me make sure I understand this," Lisa said, watching Danny test the suit's systems. "You're going to walk into a temporal radiation field that should kill you instantly, wearing a spacesuit that plays music, to have a conversation with a cosmic monster about moving to a new universe." "That's about right," Jake replied, checking. "The suit's life support systems. And you think this will work because our coffee maker helped us navigate through the gravitational anomalies?" "It's worked so far," Jake pointed out. Dr. Adams finished her medical preparations and looked at Jake seriously. "Captain, even if the electromagnetic resonance protects you from the worst of the temporal radiation, there are no guarantees. We have no idea what extended exposure will do to your body, or your mind," added Pete. "Being inside a temporal field could scramble your thoughts, make you forget why you're there." Amy adjusted the communication equipment one more time. "I've programmed the suit to broadcast a continuous loop of different musical frequencies. If any of them resonate with the creature's energy patterns, the system will automatically focus on that frequency and use it to establish communication." Jake put on the modified helmet and tested the communication system. How will I know if it's working? Trust me, Captain, Amy said with a grin. If you successfully make contact with a planet-eating cosmic entity, you'll know. The Eternals had been watching the preparations with growing excitement. Their light forms flickered faster when they were interested in something, and right now they were practically strobing. No one has ever attempted anything like this, the lead Eternal said. In all our centuries of study, we never considered trying to communicate with the creature. You were too busy trying to contain it, Jake replied, sealing the last connection on his suit. Sometimes the best way to solve a problem is to work with it instead of against it. Danny ran through the final system checks. All frequencies are broadcasting correctly, Captain. The temporal stabilization field is active. As far as I can tell, this thing should work. Should? Lisa asked. Well, it's not like we could test it first, Danny admitted. Jake walked toward the chamber where the dark sphere waited. His crew followed him, along with several Eternals who seemed fascinated by the human approach to problem-solving. As they entered the chamber, Jake could feel the temporal distortions getting stronger. His modified suit began humming softly as the speakers activated, broadcasting a complex mixture of electromagnetic frequencies and human music. Communication link established, Amy reported from her monitoring station. I'm reading your suit's transmissions clearly, Captain. Jake approached the edge of the temporal field surrounding the dark sphere. Up close, he could see that the darkness inside wasn't empty. Things moved in there, shapes that hurt to look at directly. Here goes nothing, he muttered, stepping into the temporal field. The world exploded into chaos around him. Time moved in all directions at once. He could see his past and future selves walking through the same space. Colors that had no names painted themselves across his vision. Sounds that couldn't exist echoed in his ears. But the suit was working. The music playing from his speakers created a bubble of stability around him, and gradually, the chaos settled into something his mind could process, and then he heard it. A voice like the sound of stars being born and dying. What are you, small creature? Jake nearly jumped out of his suit. You can talk. I have always been able to communicate. But you are the first to speak in frequencies I can understand. What? Is this melody you broadcast? Jake looked around and realized he was no longer in the chamber. He was floating in a space that might have been the inside of the creature's prison, or its mind, or something else entirely. Shapes that might have been memories or thoughts drifted past him like cosmic debris. It's music, Jake said. My people, create it for entertainment and expression. Music, the creature repeated, and Jake felt vast intelligence considering this concept. You create patterns of sound for no survival purpose? That's right. We do lots of things that don't help us survive. We do them because they make us happy. The creature was quiet for a moment. When it spoke again, its voice carried something that might have been wonder. I have consumed the matter of 1,000 worlds, but I have never encountered happiness. What is this thing? Jake found himself in the strangest conversation of his life, trying to explain human emotions to a cosmic entity while standing inside a temporal prison wearing a spacesuit covered in speakers. Happiness is what we feel when things go well, he said. When we solve problems or help others or experience something beautiful. I understand problem solving, the creature said. I am very good at consuming obstacles, but help and beauty are unknown concepts. Jake realized this might be his chance. That's actually why I'm here. We want to help you solve a problem. The shapes around him shifted, and he felt the creature's attention focus on him completely. What problem do I have, small creature? I am powerful beyond your comprehension. You're trapped, Jake said simply. You've been locked in this prison for 300 years, and soon, the prison will fail, and you'll be free. But then other beings will try to trap you again. It will be the same cycle over and over. This is true, the creature admitted. I have considered this problem. When I break free, I will consume this galaxy to rebuild my strength, then move to other galaxies before new prisons can be built. Jake's heart sank. The creature was planning exactly what the Eternals had feared. But what if there was another solution? What if instead of breaking out of this prison, you could move to a place where no one would ever try to trap you again? Explain this concept. Jake took a deep breath. We want to create a new universe for you. A place where you can feed and grow without anyone trying to stop you. Your own private reality where you can be as powerful as you want. The creature considered this for a long time. Around Jake, the strange shapes began moving in different patterns like thoughts reorganizing themselves. This new universe, the creature finally said. Would it contain the music-making beings? Jake paused. Would you want it to? Yes, the creature said immediately. I find your species interesting. You solve problems in ways that make no logical sense, yet somehow work. And this music concept intrigues me. I would like to understand happiness. Jake couldn't help but smile. I think we can arrange that. Working together, Jake and the creature began reconfiguring the temporal controls. The creature's vast intelligence understood the technology far better than any human could, while Jake provided the creative thinking needed to transform a prison into a doorway. As they worked, Jake explained more about human culture, music, and the concept of friendship. The creature listened with fascination, asking questions that often made Jake think about his own species in new ways. Your people choose to help each other even when it provides no direct benefit, the creature observed. This is the opposite of my nature, yet I find it compelling. Maybe in your new universe you could try being helpful instead of just consuming things, Jake suggested. An interesting challenge, the creature replied. I accept. When the reconfiguration was complete, a new doorway opened in the chamber. Through it, Jake could see swirling galaxies and stars that had never existed before. The creature began moving toward the doorway, its form expanding as it left the temporal prison. Jake got his first clear look at it and even prepared as he was. The sight was overwhelming. It was beautiful and terrible, ancient and alien, larger than cities and somehow alive in ways that defied description. As it passed through the doorway into its new universe, the creature spoke one last time. Thank you, Jake Morrison. I will remember this kindness, and I will learn to create music in the space between stars. The doorway closed, and Jake found himself back in the chamber with his crew in the Eternals. The dark sphere was gone, replaced by a small stable portal that showed glimpses of the creature's new home. Did it work? Lisa asked. Jake removed his helmet and grinned. Better than I hoped. I think we just made the galaxy's first cosmic friend. The Eternals were practically glowing with excitement. The temporal distortions are stabilizing throughout the fortress, the lead Eternal reported. We are free to leave our prison as well. As they made their way back to the ship, Amy shook her head in amazement. Captain, what are we going to tell the Galactic Council? How do we explain that we solved a 300-year-old crisis by having a friendly chat with a cosmic horror? Jake thought about it for a moment. We tell them the truth. When you tell a human something is impossible, you're not giving us a limitation, you're giving us a challenge. Pete laughed. And when the challenge is making friends with something that eats planets, we figure out how to do that too. As the defiant spirit prepared to leave the fortress, now transformed into a research station studying interdimensional travel, Jake received one final message. It came through Amy's communication system, but it was clearly from their new cosmic friend.